Hello and welcome back to the Tease podcast. Today we are chatting about this year's predictions. What are we going to see in marketing, digital business systems, as well as content creation? We're keeping it super simple today, just going over some of the basics of where you can invest your time and attention. We'll do a little catch up, recap of this holiday season, thinking about goal setting, and maybe the approach that you're taking isn't quite right for you. You feel like you failed before and you're setting too high level of expectations and putting too much pressure on yourself. So why not try something different instead? All right, let's get into it.
Warm
By
up.
the way, came up with the best commercial idea from that song. You know the Missy Elliott song that's like ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. So if I was the
Yes.
Sriracha brand, I would do Sriracha cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. And it's like spice so good. And then the song would continue from there. Very
I like
clever.
that.
I know.
I
And
think
then
that's very
stuck in
clever.
bread. It's
Yeah.
great marketing.
100%. 100%. Awesome.
So we just wrapped up the holidays and 2025 is now technically behind us. 2026, a new year ahead. And for me, in terms of like recap and what has happened, 2025, if you're into Chinese New Year or universe or any of those kinds of like things, 2026 was the year of the water snake. And it was supposed to be all about shedding, releasing, letting go of. And I feel like that for me in a big way. I closed an entire brand last year that I'd held on to for a long time. I let go of a lot of programs that I feel like I was just sitting on. I closed Instagram accounts, got rid of emails, and like decluttered in a big way in my life, emotionally, physically, digitally, relationships, just so much. And over the holidays, we went to Tahoe, which was fantastic. We stopped going to family or being with family last year. Very complicated, stuff going on there in the background. Someday I'll share about it. But ultimately, that was kind of our decision. So Jeremy, my husband, and I went up to Tahoe. We spent Christmas on the mountain last year, had an amazing time. I've gotten into snowboarding over the past years, which has been fantastic. And it was just nice to just be on our own and not have to be on anybody else's time frame. It did storm this year in Tahoe, so we didn't get as much time on the mountain as we would have liked. One beautiful, crisp, clear day. But going into the end of the year, 2025, you're like, yes, I'm going to hit it hard. 2026, New Year's resolutions. We got things going. Like goals are set. It's clean slate. And then I got sick. Not like terrible sick, but just sick enough so that I couldn't go out and do things. And then I just started my period. And then I hurt my wrists. It's just been like thing after thing after thing. And so I was like, okay. I thought I was ready for the new year. I thought I was ready to start this whole new content creation thing. I thought TBH, blah, blah, blah. We're getting this investment. We're doing all these things. And I just want to give you grace as you're listening, because a lot of times you can gear up for things and say like, okay, January 1 or even January 5 yesterday, and say like, this is the start. This is it. This is what's going to happen. Everything is going to flip 180. I'm done with the old year, in with the new, or whatever that kind of change pivot time is for you. And you can feel like so much is hinging on it. But it's okay to have that fall apart. Like for me, it felt like it fell apart. Now, it wasn't the end of the world. Like I read a bunch of romance novels, which I've just been loving, and got caught up on some stuff, finished some things, whatever, took care of the bare necessities. And it's fine. Like I'm going to get up tomorrow. I'll feel a lot better and I can start over. I can do it then. I've put so much pressure on myself for years to basically set myself up for failure and disappointment, to not meet my own expectation. Yeah. And so like for me, I know that was a long story, and Joanna and I have been trying to talk less on the podcast, which we've
That's
very well with.
Which we're doing great at.
Joanna is a godsend. She's literally been tracking our time of talk on each podcast so that we are not monologuing, because we were monologuing and we've evolved and we've come so far, which I'm proud of us for.
Yeah. I'm so proud of us.
I'm proud of us.
We're so proud of us. You got me thinking, Michelle, as you were talking about this like problem that's like absolutely inevitable as business owners, content creators, whatever we do. We have these goals and these things we want to do, and then something happens. You get sick, you hurt yourself, you have a life catastrophe. Like life happens. And something clicked for me as you were talking because I've changed the way I project manage something in my life. And I realized that it completely solves that problem. So I'm going to share it with you and everyone on this podcast. A lot of times when we think of something that we're working on, especially when it's like future casting, building something new, I think most people are really good at getting like a client work done on time or like something that's very time sensitive or something that's already moving. You've made a commitment. But when it comes to those growth things, right? Like I want to launch a new YouTube channel or I want to launch a new digital product. It is so easy to push it off and push it off and push it off. And a lot of times, if you've ever used a project management tool or thought through how you're going to do this, you say, okay, well, I'm going to do this week, this next week, this the week after, and all of that. And then what happens? Life happens. So you say, okay, I'm going to do it next week. And all of those dates push back. Okay, I'm going to do that thing next week. And you do that and you do that and you do that. Well, Brandon and I at Millennial Marketer, our goal, end of last year, we decided we're launching a membership in 2026. And I normally would say, okay, to do that, we've got to do this by this date, this by this date, this by this date. What I did instead, and I didn't even realize that this is like solved this problem when I did it, is I set up our action plan by milestone. So the first goal was to get 50 people into a free challenge. So we just focused on getting 50, no time frame, no set goal. Our goal is 50 people in the challenge. So that means if one week we got 2 new people, we made progress. If we got 10 new people, we made a lot of progress, right? And then once we hit that 50, that's when we were going to work towards our next milestone and our next milestone and our next milestone. And I will tell you, we have been trying to launch a membership for like 3 years. And like it's happening because of this project management shift. Because, right, like if you say, oh, I'm going to make it next week, then you push back, and you push back. But with a milestone mindset, we've been able to, some weeks we make very incremental change. Some weeks we make big change. And like that's actually okay. And it's been a really exciting way to think about getting stuff done.
I like that approach. And then it's not so time-based because I don't use planners anymore. I went through a whole phase of trying every single planner from Box Babe to this just really beautiful aesthetic one to habit tracking bullet journal type deals to Brendan Burchard planner to all of the things. And I've just realized like that is not my MO. I am not good at approaching my management, my time, my tasks, my priorities with a planner because all I did constantly was one, I would just miss days. I just wouldn't do it on certain days. My consistency level is terrible. Like as someone who comes from habit formation and behavior change, my ability to stay consistent on a day-to-day basis is pretty much like brushing my teeth and doing my skincare routine. That's like the only thing that I can legitimately show up for on a daily basis. And I don't know what that says about me, whether it's an attention thing or I don't know. I can't tell you. I have not diagnosed that problem officially. But I do know that I'm able to tackle a ton of things because of the way that I manage my time, my energy, my attention now. And it looks different than how other people do it. So especially when you're in this time of the new year starting, people are setting resolutions, we're creating goals, we're working. We have a great episode on that. So if you're not, hit subscribe for the Click Tease podcast. Go back and listen to the previous episode on goal setting, which takes a very different approach than maybe what you've heard or seen before. And that might be effective for you. You might have been trying to do the same thing over and over and over and over again and not getting the results that you want, but you're seeing all these other people be successful with that process. Well, that process might not work for you. And it's okay to make a change. Like if you seriously want to accomplish that thing, change it up. I don't set time frames anymore on myself either. And it makes it so much easier. There's actually a study on this for a sales team. I can't remember where I read about this, and it was some big brand like Microsoft or Hewlett Packard or like something really big, is that when they actually removed the pressure of sales quotas from their team, their performance improved, because instead of coming in and feeling like, oh my gosh, like I have to do X number of sales every single day, they actually started to enjoy the process again. So sometimes we put so much pressure, we put so much expectation on ourselves, especially around goal setting, especially around like accomplishments and getting all this stuff done. And as business owners, we're wearing all of these different hats. So we've got all of these things we've got to check off. And for me, that process has completely changed to simplification and action taking. And what Joanna's just demonstrated is taking action little by little, every single day, every single week, as opposed to fulfilling another strategy, doing more planning. Oh my gosh, I have to go back to the drawing board. I've got to rework this. I've got to replan this. I've got to actually do 16 steps before I take that first one that's going to get something out into the world. And that's an overthinking mindset. And that does show your intellect. It shows your maybe education, your training. Maybe you were really great at school. But when it comes to business, when it comes to content creation, when it comes to your marketing and life, you've got to act faster. And that's one of my big things that I'm working on this year, is going from ideation to creation so much faster. And so that's my goal. So now that I'm feeling better, that's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think you bring up so many good points, because like so often we plan for this like ideal version of ourselves that like doesn't exist. And there's this one YouTuber that I really like. Her name is Hannah Louise Poston. She's a like makeup and fashion YouTuber, and but she has a very different approach than a lot of other content creators in that space. And she talks about not buying clothes for this ideal version of yourself that doesn't even exist. So think about like, if you literally never wear heels, if you have heels in the back of your closet and you don't wear them because your feet hurt, don't keep buying heels, because then you'll be constantly frustrated. You don't have footwear you like and not wear the heels. And then you're just in a situation. So you should shop for the person you are, not this like ideal version of yourself. And I think the same goes with planning. A good example of this is I'm just not a morning person. I am not an early riser. There were times in my life where I would say, I'm going to start waking up at 5:30 to get my workout done first thing in the morning. Every day I'd hit snooze. Every day I'd start my day failing. And like, there is merit if there's a negative habit that you have that you want to change. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But like, I don't need to wake up early to have a productive day. And I can wake up at the time that makes sense for me and plan my day based on how I work versus try to work the way I think my day should be.
Mm-hmm. I think this is just the biggest learning lesson. And I know that technically we're not talking about this today, so keep hanging around. We're actually talking about predictions for 2026 that we're seeing in marketing and content creation. And thank you for being here, by the way. It's one thing, I'm actually listening to this romance novel right now where there is a podcaster as the female character and male character, sports and relationships. It's pretty cute. But what's one of the things that they have been doing? And I just want to thank you if you're here listening to the Tease podcast, to Joanna and I. We're just so grateful to have you here. And we're super excited about what this next year looks like. This is going to be a huge growth year, a huge building year. We've got some changes up our sleeves that we anticipate happening. We have our Substack, which Joanna manages and goes out every single week. So you can find that in the show notes. Subscribe to it. It also comes to your email. And those are very tactical, tangible things that you can use in your business, marketing, and content creation. So just thank you for being here. We so appreciate you. And I think we should get into it. Let's predict. Yeah. What have you got, Joanna? What are we going to see coming in 2026?
So my first prediction, as I think about 2026 and what I expect to happen, is that we will be seeing more and more terrible AI ads. Like, I hate to say it, but I saw a big increase towards the end of the year of getting served AI created ads. And I think in our feeds, in our worlds, not from individual creators, but from brands. I think we're going to see a big increase in that area. And I actually think that's a good thing for us. So I think as these larger brands, larger people are relying on AI to create ads, it gives smaller creators a chance to capture attention. So as people are, because I don't think people like it. Like I really don't. Like whenever you get an AI ad, I always go and look at the comments if it's like an AI social ad, and everybody's just ragging on it. Like they hate it. Like they want, especially when it's humans. Like, right? I think we've talked on this show about some good ways to use AI and AI content creation, and that we really don't want to use it to get rid of the human element. I think it gives people like the ick, to for less lack of a better word. So I think we're going to see an increase in it, but I think it's actually a place where you as a creator can show up very authentically and very real, and like without that like perfect mask, and actually connect with people more. So I see it as an opportunity for us to not switch to AI content creation, but to double down on that human element that we can offer as creators.
Yeah, this is one of my core predictions too in terms of AI. Now, I will say that AI is only going to get better. So right now, it is a little bit easier to be able to discern and say, okay, that person
Yep.
has too like good of skin. But the way that AI is going to format now and learn, and the coders and like what we're seeing in terms of creation, it's just going to get better. And so we are going to see expansion, especially with larger brands. When you have a huge business that's focused on profitability, that is dedicated to its shareholders, and they need to see success over time, they're going to invest in AI strategies that decrease human investment of time, labor, attention, energy, and talent acquisition. Like from a business perspective, it makes sense to invest in AI right now because it can be incredibly profitable and beneficial to your systems, to your scalability. Like there are a lot of positives that are going to come with AI, and I see the use of that being only exponential in terms of its growth. But even Adam Mosseri, am I saying his name right?
I,
Instagram,
I
Adam
don't even
Mosseri.
know who that is.
Mosseri? Okay. You know what I'm talking about. The Instagram. He's the Instagram CEO.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, Joanna. That is your homework. Hello. Google. Okay. So anyway, I follow him and pay attention because he puts out a lot of like just Instagram updates and things like that, but he also speaks more generally to content creation. And one of the posts he put out recently was about this development in AI, is that it's only going to get better. It's only going to be more prevalent. We're going to see it happening all over the place. But what does that mean? It means exactly what you said, Joanna, is that we as individuals, as business owners, as coaches, as content creators, as people who are representing our personal brands, that means we get to lean heavily into authenticity. That means that we get to show up as ourselves and step more into a robust character of what it is that we're trying to create. Because I still think, and I feel this way based on like spirituality, universal intelligence. Like when you think about energetics, like I believe in there being something else, right? Like there is our physical reality in this physical plane, but there has to be something else there. And I don't know exactly what that is. I can't describe it. I can't necessarily explain it, but I believe that it's there. And I think that there is consistently with human beings, even though there will be relationships built on AI, chat platforms, you can develop friendships, like there will be that side of things. And I see that evolving over time. Side note, Joanna, you got to say something right now, but I got to tell a side story.
okay. I'm just going to talk. So that way, when I track it, you didn't talk for too long.
I don't want to talk for too long.
I talked. So what is your side note?
Okay, perfect. So my side note is my niece. My niece turns 6 in February, and she was visiting us the other day and trying to have a conversation with Siri. So when you think about young people and how they're engaging with AI right now and the development, if you even think about pulling up ChatGPT, I don't know if you've ever used the voice conversation mode with ChatGPT. If you haven't yet and you're listening, pull it up. I think it's so interesting to pay attention to. Jeremy showed me a toy. It's very popular. It was sold out. We couldn't get it for our niece and nephew. And it's a dinosaur, and it has an AI voice-activated response. And so you're talking to a toy, you're talking to AI, you're talking as a child to a non-sentient being that's obviously based off of language learning models, etc. It's obviously talking more about like row, row, row your boat, different things. But just imagine next generations and where we see our relationship building and connections going with AI, with robots over time, which I think is so interesting. All that to be said, I still believe when it comes to content creation, when it comes to personal branding, when it comes to marketing, there is going to be a disconnect with that AI. And so I think as a human being, you will always have that edge. And I think the more you can lean into it now, the better.
Yeah. I also think that there's always, with everything, like a pendulum swing, like something becomes very, very saturated and then like swings back in the opposite direction. And then you end up in a different, but like not so extreme place. I will say you had your experience with your niece. My daughter actually has a very like averse reaction to AI. So, she's Gen Alpha, she's 8. She's had electronics as part of her life like forever. But she will say things to me like, I've had too much screen time today. I need to do something else. I don't want to watch a movie tonight. I don't want to play video games. I want to like get away from screens. So she'll like make that call for herself. She also has a dislike for AI content. Like she doesn't want anything to do with it. So I think it's very possible for like Gen Alpha, as it gets like saturated for them, they're like, wait, I don't actually want this. And I see that happening as well. So I think that, AI is going to be a part of your business, but like, don't, don't outsource your face. Like I just think that's something that you should keep and hold on to. And then we've talked about this on the podcast before, but using like be authentically you, use AI for efficiencies, for automations, for repetitive tasks, for finding information out of your own information, right? Like things that make sense to use AI for. But like let you be you. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot of in 2026 is like true authenticity. Because even people who don't use AI can sometimes put up a big front on camera or in their writing or in whatever content they're putting out, where like what they're putting out and who they are doesn't match. But I think we're going to see feeds be less curated, people creating content that feels more like they're on a FaceTime video with their friends. That kind of feel, I think we're going to see is more important as that AI content becomes bigger. We're going to see that juxtaposition, which I think will be really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, my next prediction in terms of content, and I'm seeing this a bit, is that a lot of our content is framed from like us, right? Like we're the ones in the video, we're directing the shots, we're developing the creative process, we're showing up for it, or it's our POV kind of lens. But I'm seeing a lot of content, a lot of ads that are almost like staged third-party interactions. And so it's almost like a fly on the wall type deal. If you've ever seen the content where it's like from a window and they're watching like a girl's walking down the street, but the girl is somewhat unaware, theoretically unaware of the person who's filming her, or a guy who's running. I don't know why this is my algorithm, but it is.
You're in the voyeurism algorithm.
Joanna.
Okay, voyeurism doesn't have to be sexual.
No, I didn't think we'd get into kinks today. So
okay, now we know.
Yeah, we know. If you're not watching the video, I am 100% blushing right now. Here we go. Moving on. So, these videos is that someone is capturing this thing without the main subjects theoretically knowing that they're watching them. And a lot of it is staged or it's very interesting. And I see that growing in terms of content creation, that it's like people are happening upon a scene or happening upon something because it automatically creates this curiosity and this intrigue as a consumer. And as you know, those first initial 3 seconds are the most important in your content creation and content development because people are deciding what they're going to continue to watch or not. And anything that looks like it's catching something in the act, I think is like absolutely going to grow when
Yeah.
it comes to content creation, marketing. You see it from a commercial perspective to a social media perspective to an ads perspective.
I think, right, we want that like gossip feel. We want to be in the know. So if you're like watching something you don't think you're supposed to watch or like people are unaware, it's like reality TV, right?
Yeah,
Like reality TV is likely way more staged than we think it is, but you feel like you're watching something like, ooh, I shouldn't be really seeing this. So when you can create that in your content, that just brings this level of intrigue. I know a lot of people, that's what that like skit content does. Even though you know it's staged, because a lot of times people are playing two characters. But when you say, hey, you, I want to give you a tip, it's like only one level of content. But when you play two characters and you're someone who's not in the know, and then the other character is someone who's in the know, it's just more intriguing, interesting, entertaining. And so I love that idea of like the fly in the wall content, the look inside that's a little bit different and less like direct to the people that you're talking about. One of the big trends that I expect to see this year is really kind of in the product space. So my business, I talk to people who make digital products, program services all of the time. And this is a space that has been like very saturated with all kinds of options and coaching and memberships and live cohorts and blah, 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 and all of these things. I personally see a big shift and move to memberships and digital products that have some sort of live component and interaction. I kind of have been seeing almost the death of the asynchronous large course. And I think it's because people who have bought products and done things, they buy and buy and buy these things and don't use them. And I think that people are craving if they're looking for a solution to a problem, they want access to a person, they want access to other people, some sort of like live moving component to it. So what that means is, you know, memberships that have weekly Q&As or a course that has a community feature where you can actually chat with people, even if it's not like the main expert. Content that develops over time. So it's not a stagnant course, but maybe you're getting something new every single week, right? I think I'm seeing that work better from the sales side for my clients. And then I'm also watching other people kind of adjust their programs where we're kind of getting rid of the sort of stale singular course. The other thing that a lot of people do to combat that are like big cohorts where you're like in a $2,000 mastermind that has these live sessions. I also kind of see those going away because people want to be able to kind of come in and go as they please. So thinking of digital products as being more like living, breathing memberships that people can be a part of and have that community, I think is where a lot of online programming is going to go.
definitely. And I think the simplicity of the nature in the products and offers that we're giving to people, right? Like, I feel like it used to be, well, you get this, and 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 you get this. And then you're like, oh my God, whoa. Like, I haven't seen a landing page that has that like whole swath of things anymore,
Yeah.
as well as like the simplicity of funnels and systems. We've talked on the
Yep.
podcast about before, and Joanna shared with her clients how we're shifting away from those really complex landing page funnels that takes you through a million different things before you get to the actual offer, and even just keeping that in the DMs and having simple conversations. Like, I think people are tired and fatigued and overwhelmed from the noise of flashy and over the top and what I think to be more like a ClickFunnels approach of like, upsell, downsell, change this, add this, do this thing. Like, I'll click out of stuff these days. And now I'm not every user by any means, but a lot of times, like, if I get to 2 or 3 different offers within a funnel framework, I will stop the purchasing process because now I'm just pissed off. I'm like,
Because
I
I'm like, this
genuinely
is just too
okay.
much.
Yeah, you want simplicity. Like, people want to be able to buy as easily as possible. So the lower barriers that you have to that purchasing process, I think, is huge from like a business and systems
Yeah.
perspective. Along that vein of the live interactive component, I really think people are moving more and back to retreats, in-person, like, opportunities to be able to do pop-ups, guerrilla style events, like things that are engaging people in a unique, creative way. Yeah, I think that that's going to only grow and expand. There's this creator, I think it's Cat GPT is her name, and she focuses on AI, but she's done a couple different things. There's this glass block that's shaped like an iPhone that she started that is like, you have the habit of like picking up your iPhone and things like that. So having a glass block instead of an actual phone. And then she launched a physical phone product where it's like one of the old school telephones, that we used to use with the dial. You can pick it up, but you plug it into your phone, or it's Bluetooth on your phone or something like that. But you can actually pick up the handle and talk on the phone. Because, the first prediction, of course, is this AI, I think we always have almost a direct response in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah.
So when we see things going more future-oriented, more tech-oriented, people bring back records. They bring back different generations hearkening to times before. And so I think that as human beings and, as nostalgic, emotionally driven beings, we are going to be connected to things that are more traditional in our past, things that were of a quote unquote simpler time. So I think that along with, again, the development of AI, technology, innovation, the drive for that, we're simultaneously going to see a need for human connection, simple offerings, and things that kind of bring us back to our roots in a really big way.
Yeah. And I even I just see that in my life too. Like with my family. Like we've been making bread and doing things like that instead of buying it. And this idea of being a little bit more homegrown. Not that technology isn't obviously part of our lives. I work on a computer all day, like all of those things, but it's that reaction. Like when something picks up, something else kind of comes up in that opposite of balance, in balancing those things out. So finding ways to unplug, finding ways to get, away from things. And if you're creating digital products, programs, and all of that, you can hop on that trend, right? Like an in-person retreat might be very, very appealing for people. A lower tech digital course that doesn't have like thousands of downloads and these complicated things, but that just delivers what people need when they need it instead of being so overwhelming, right? There's a lot of things that make sense. And for us as creators, that actually I think is helpful because you don't have to worry about having all of the bells and whistles. Just worry about having the right thing that just gets to the point and gets people what they need rather than feel like you have to pad it with complications. And I think that's really cool and exciting to look into 2026 and think about that. Like, how can you simplify? How can you get right to the point? How can you simplify your sales processes and what you do in a way that feels human, feels authentic, and is right for that potential client?
Yeah, I think tuning into those needs. I mean, there's so much crap, let's be honest. Like, there's so much crap in the online space, whether that is paid or free. And when I was first getting into online business, it was so easy to want to sign up for every webinar and get every freebie and pay for, $17 here, $97 here, do the $297 courses, and then sign up for the $3,000 courses, and then do the groups and the mastermind and the coaching and the da-da-da. And it was like, if it was there, I probably spent money on it. And you realize just how much you don't need it And for me, in my products and where I'm heading with, especially like in the business marketing consulting side of what I'm doing, I want to make things as simple as possible, as accessible for as people like for people as possible. Because you're right, people sign up for those things, and on part, of course, it's their prerogative. Like you can't make people do something that they don't want to, that they're not going to do. Absolutely. But I have also gotten a lot of things and then been completely overwhelmed by it because I'm the student and they're the teacher. And so, as now being in my teacher time, like in my teacher role, I want to make things accessible so that the student feels like they're held, so that they feel like they're walked through the process, so that they feel like they are capable of doing it. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of teachers, mentors, coaches are just like, well, if you can't do it, like you're not meant to be doing it. Or, if you're not going to put in the work, then that's on you. And I think that's a huge issue in this space is, again, you as an individual, as a coach, like you cannot take on the responsibility of doing it for your client. Like if you're a personal trainer, and I've been a personal trainer, if you're a personal trainer, I cannot do your push-ups for you. But guess what? If you can't do push-ups, if you can't do 100 push-ups on your hands and feet, which is unlikely that a lot of people can, what am I going to do? I'm going to regress it for you. I'm going to start small. Can you do one push-up? Let's start there. And I don't think enough coaches, teachers, and educators today in the online space take that responsibility and onus on themselves. They basically are like, here's the super complex, complicated system and all of this stuff, and here's all the resources, and you should be able to do it by yourself because I did it by myself, or I figured it out, or whatever the case is. Wow, I just went on a soapbox. Apparently, I feel very passionately about this. So I'm working on simplifying, but that's my soapbox, and I am sticking to it. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We're so grateful that you joined us on the Click Tease podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe, go to the comment or the show notes section and sign up for the Substack because every single week we put out episodes that are more conversational. However, in those Substacks, which go to your email and of course get published on the platform, you will get more tactical, tangible, step-by-step advice in your marketing, your content creation, and your business systems in order to be successful. We'll see you next time.